You know we got a monster Truth Social post coming out at some point this morning, right? And it's got nothing to do with Iran. It's got nothing to do with that whatsoever. We got a monster Truth Social post. I know that's coming down from the President of the United States, absolutely blasting Fox News. He's going to smoke them today. And you know why it's coming? Because he is going to be teed off at this poll that came out. Fox News survey finds 70% disapprove of the job congressional Democrats are doing. That number for the Republicans is nearly as bad, 64%. Now, here's the part when it comes to the president that's going to get him all bent out of shape. Majorities say the economy is struggling, inflation is not under control, and the federal government is falling short. Only 30% rate the economy positively right now. And that is, unfortunately, not a good number when you compare it to where people are who say costs are still too darn high. Voters still feel cost pressures. Compared to a year ago, most say grocery prices have increased, 81%, including more than half who say they're up a lot, 56%. Large numbers also say costs have increased for utilities, healthcare, housing, and gas. Now, some of that's just not true, right? Like, groceries are not up a lot more than last year. I know that a lot is somewhat in the eye of the beholder. But for the most part, you do have inflation that has come down. Now, it's never going to go negative. You don't want negative. All you can really do is slow down the increase of anything. You can't, if you go negative, then you've got a major recession on your hands. So a lot of this is still pain being felt from the overspending during COVID, along with the last guy. I mean, that's just the reality. But here's the thing, and I don't know what any federal politician can do about it, but people are feeling the pinch, right? They're feeling the pain. But a lot of the pain right now is not being driven by the federal government. What do I mean by that? Well, take Johnson County, Kansas, for example. Y'all just got your appraisals. We talked about it last week. You could look it up online. Mine came in the mail this week, and you look at it, and you're like, oh, boy, here we go. More property tax increases. My property tax is up 50% the last 5-6 years. That's money that goes to the local schools, to the city, that goes to the county of Johnson County, and a little bit of that goes to the state. Property taxes going up, appraisals going up, your homeowner's insurance going up, your car insurance has gone up tremendously. Now, one thing that can be done by the feds is that if you get people off the roads who are here illegally without insurance, that will help everybody's car insurance rate. But that doesn't happen overnight. But like your property taxes, what you're dealing with when it comes to being a homeowner, right? The appraisals continuing to increase. A lot of that is not controlled by Trump or anybody in D.C. A lot of that is local pain because you've got these local governments, these municipalities, just, spending out the wazoo and driving up your property taxes, and that causes you to be poorer. That's what it does. And so when people say, hey, I'm feeling the pinch, it's a buildup of almost a decade at this point, but really more like 5 or 6 years, and the wages haven't kept up. And even though this year or over the last year, you have seen wages outpace inflation, which is, once again, a very good thing, there's a lot of catching up to do. Because for the most part, over the last 4 to 5 years, people were getting poorer. So now they are getting richer, but it's only been 12 months of that. So by the time you start to feel any relief, you're going to be into a midterm election and likely into next year. So I don't know what you do about this, right? You can, if you're Trump, you can give all the great economic stats that you want, but people aren't feeling it. While at the same time, there's not a lot he can do when it comes to the real pain that's being caused by things that he does not have control over. I'm not sitting here. Yeah, some of you are going to listen to this and think that I'm just giving him an excuse. I'm not. I honestly don't know what he does about the fact that Overland Park and Johnson County are doubling their budgets over the last decade or less. In the case of Johnson County, they've gone from a $900 million budget to a $1.8 billion budget in less than 10 years. That impacts you. You're paying those taxes through your property. I don't know, like, what is he going to do about that? But that's hundreds of dollars a year, if not more, that is being taken out of your pocket to fund Johnson County, Kansas. Same thing for Olathe, for Overland Park, and obviously Jackson County has had a slew of issues on this front that we've covered over the last several years. But you can go anywhere, and it's all the same deal around Kansas City or anywhere around the country. So it's a tough spot. Now, you want to say healthcare? Okay, once again, if you want to actually have the healthcare conversation, and according to this poll from Fox News, 71% of Americans say that their healthcare costs have increased and are too high. I'm with you. But look at the cost of health insurance related to inflation since Obamacare got passed. The Affordable Care Act made health insurance less affordable than it's ever been. How do you get that across to people? I mean, listen, it's easy in politics to just blame the other guy. In this case, it's actually true. Now, if you want to knock the Republicans for something, it's that they've never had a good plan on how to reverse the course of Obamacare. They've just said it's bad, but they've never had a plan in place to actually go out there and fix it. So what do you do about that? Utilities, same thing. A lot of that's controlled locally. A lot of that is tied into your state. Gas prices, a lot of those gas prices, like in California, it's just state taxes. You're still paying for something a gallon to fill up your tank out in California and, similar in New York, although it's not as bad over there as it is in California. So, those are things out of his control. Those are things that his administration can't do anything about, but people are like, man, I am tapped out right now. I'm tapped out. And I don't know how to get myself back on track. People feel like they're that hamster on that wheel, and they have no chance of ever getting off. But at the same time, he's got to have people around him who are trying to figure out that plan. Because complaining about it doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, you ran for office knowing full well what you were walking into. You knew the media was going to give you a hard time. You knew that all these issues existed when it came to the cost of housing and health care and utilities. You knew that this was going to be something you had to deal with. So what can you do about it? Or at the very least, how do you help change the narrative around it? 913-408-7957 is the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Pete, the best analogy I can come up with, this is on the text line, a jet's altitude versus ascent. Trump has greatly decreased going higher, but Biden has us way the heck up there. That's a good analogy.
Absolutely. I like that.
We're all the way up here, and Trump can't really get us down. We don't want to crash this thing. We just want to slow the rise as much as we can. And that's all he can do. That's it. Now, maybe there are more refunds that come through. The tax refunds are expected to be bigger than ever before, in part because of the big, beautiful bill. That may help and give people some relief, but that's also going to be short-lived. It's like the stimulus checks, right? People are going to be like, oh, man, this feels great. And then they'll be back in a pinch in no time. So it is one of the things that if they're going to turn this thing around, Bill O'Reilly said this morning on his morning update that if Iran goes well, he thinks that Trump and the Republicans win the midterms. I don't see that for a second. I just don't. Iran is not going to be the thing that defines the midterms. It can send it way off the rails. It could make it worse for the GOP in the midterms if this thing drags on. But there's no way if they have a successful few weeks and they're in and they're out, it helps them in any way. It's just the people that support it and support him are going to be like, great, good job. That was a good thing to do. But I don't think anyone's crossing back over because what they're going to think about is how does it impact me? What does it mean for me? And right now, for a lot of Americans, they can't understand, or they just, not even they can't understand. That's not fair. They don't care to understand how this is tied to having a more stable Middle East, how this is also tied to hamstringing China in many respects. China's panicking. They have no domestic supply of oil, which is their greatest vulnerability. They need up to 13 million barrels per day of oil, and they've lost Venezuela, and now they've lost Iran. They can't survive a potential turndown. And the president knows that. So there is some of that going on with hurting China in all this that probably isn't getting enough attention. But once again, most Americans don't care. They're on TikTok. They're like, oh, $2.99 gas. And I'm not happy about the gas being up, but that's all they're seeing. So you've got to figure out how to cut through all that noise if you're this administration and the entire party and be like, how do we change the narrative around this? Because if not, you're looking at a potential bloodbath coming up in November. That's just fact. Democrats are motivated. They have a higher propensity voter than the Republicans do right now. The Republicans have a lower propensity voter, meaning voters that are less likely to turn out in off-year elections. And you saw that Tuesday night. You saw it in North Carolina, where 800,000 Democrats came out to vote, 600,000 Republicans came out to vote. Both primaries were pretty much boring primaries. We knew who the winners were going to be. In Texas, you had two primaries where there were very good battles going on in the GOP and then also in the Democratic Party. And 2.3 million Democrats turned out in Texas, 2.1 million Republicans turned out in Texas. They are hyper-motivated. They have higher propensity voters in today's landscape, and they can't stand Trump. Iran is not going to be that thing that motivates anybody or makes any difference. Mike's in Olathe. What's up, Mike? You're on KCMO.
Well, you kind of hit on two things. I want to really quick. You hit the one thing about the TikTok thing. I go back to the 25% of the people that voted, and they had mail-in ballots on the Olathe bond issue. We circled no, filled it in, and sent it in right away. I actually hand-delivered to the post office, even though I don't trust them either. That's my point. They're not paying attention. 75% of the citizens didn't vote. But I do think that O'Reilly's onto something. Positive news, positive anything right now will be a positive influence. I don't know if it's going to change. It ain't going to change any Trump haters and all that other stuff. But we need some positive. And I think over time in the next few months, I think the economy has to show signs of being more positive because of what they put in. And then
but it's already showing signs, and people are at least saying to these polls, and I'm not saying that these polls are gold. I mean, you take them all with a grain of salt, but there's not a lot of evidence in polling that suggests people are like, all right, I feel really good about this. And there's a lot of economic evidence and data that shows things actually are trending in the right direction. So what does that tell you?
Well, I think you're right about the tax thing, and I think I know you're right about this as well, because it's sort of been baked in the cake for a few years because we've been living in this doldrum type of state. Mm-hmm. You've got a tough job. You're right, and we just got to get voices somehow. Our side's got to talk about it, and hopefully we'll see some results soon.
I think we're seeing those results. I'm not even knocking the results. I think the results are there. I do. I'm not knocking the results. I'm not really knocking anything. I'm just saying it's a conundrum that they've got to figure out how to get out of, because right now, no matter what happens with Iran, it doesn't look good. And I don't think a great win, it's not like this is post 9/11 where we had 3,000 of our fellow Americans that get killed. And it's like, we're going to get bin Laden. We're going to blow up Afghanistan. We're going to take out Saddam. And of course, then it dragged on and the American people were like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Totally different scenario. We're doing this proactively, which once again makes it a harder sell to people who are like, okay, well, how can you prove we were about to get potentially nuked by Iran? It's impossible to prove that. I mean, not impossible, but it's very hard to prove that to people that aren't paying attention to begin with, who are just like, well, my gas went up 50 cents a gallon. That's what I care about. So it's not going to be the Iranian thing that sways public sentiment either way. It's not.